0.5%. And before 2007, it used to be too easy to get a loan. Well, ever since then, in the last 15 years, every bank and their regulator has overcorrected and made it near impossible. So you have to give blood samples and other samples just to get loans. You need 800 credit scores. That is one. And the other one is all the closing transactional issues. For a purchase, you need a closing attorney. For a sale, you need a closing attorney. Each time, the closing attorney and the lender is going to do appraisals, sometimes surveys. Then there's title insurance, and then there's this cost, and there's that cost. It eats into our profitability on both sides of the transaction ledger, and that is the thing that Roofstock has solved for us. Is I literally can hold an auction right here and say, who wants this house that we bought in South Carolina? I could transfer it to you right now as an NFT, and we're done. There is no closing. So that's the appeal for us.
We at Teller, we are an average Joe when it comes to housing. So I think the good thing is we did not really know what the pain points are for financing a house. So we treated it mainly as an NFT. So he said, okay, this is an NFT. How do you give a loan out for a Bored Ape or a CryptoPunk? We would mainly treat it as that, and we understand that this is a tokenized asset. So we checked with the lawyers. It's like, this is what we are going to do. The fees are basically like 5 basis points on the loan origination, and the other cost is basically the interest that the borrower needs to pay the lender. So we, as a protocol, we don't take anything else. And we just approach it as any other DeFi lending and borrowing protocol. And we showed this to both Roofstock and Adam. And Adam just got to know about this, and he's like, you take only 5 basis points as commission. And he's like, that's nuts. So, yeah, I mean, this whole like...
It means you can probably increase it to 25 basis points. That's what
there's the issue though. I mean, if I increase it to you as a protocol, I need to increase it to all the other NFTs as well.
That's why we should keep it at 5. Yeah, let's just do that.
We'll do 5. Yeah. So I think the good thing is we have no idea what the pain points are for the issues of a home financing. We treat it as an NFT, and I think that's the big advantage for like anybody who wants to do a home purchase.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just add that even though that's functionally how it works, behind the scenes you're actually opting into a commercial lending framework, and there's a legal structure that makes it possible to take that NFT and put it in your vault. And by opting into specifically, because what's happening behind the scenes is there's a pledge of equity that's being provided by the borrower to the lender, and that's being the lien is being perfected by the NFT being held in the lender's vault. And specifically, that's legally enforceable because we opt into Article 8 of the Uniform Commercial Code, where through control and possession, the lender gets a perfection in their lien. So even though functionally it's the same as thinking about it as over-collateralized lending to an ape or punk, we because it's a real-world asset, we've built this legal structure behind the scenes that supports that easy way of lending and borrowing, right?
I think that's where the partnership really works, right? I mean, these guys are really lawyers, legal advisors, and we guys are tech people. We build out the what do you call, the smart contract behind it. So I think that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
And I think one thing I wanted to add to that is, like today in the crypto over-collateralized crypto lending world, DeFi protocols, you're looking at something like a 2% yield. And which is sort of odd because risk-free securities, which are T-bills or short-term government bonds, you might be getting close to a 5% yield on those, and that's if that's risk-free, then everything else from there has some amount of risk that's higher than the risk-free product. But you have this two distinct economies today, one being the Web3 economy and the other being the traditional economy, and these two are not in sync today, right? And so if you're looking at over-collateralized crypto lenders that are making 2% on their USDC somewhere, they have an opportunity to come and make a few hundred basis points more. Yes, what they give up is liquidity for a short amount of time, because these loans do have a 2-year term. So you're giving up liquidity for 2 years, but you're locking in an interest rate of 6, 7, 8%, which is phenomenal, right?
If you look at it a year back, it was the inverse.
Yeah.
USDC lending in DeFi was at about 7%, 8%, and then your Web 2 interest rate was more, or your TradFi interest rate was more like 2%, 3%. So now it has become the inverse of it. So it's interesting how that played out. But I don't know if you guys know this. Do you know Peep? There was some lender who did a LP commitment on Teller. They were like, I'm willing to commit $5,000 to whoever that is giving Peep as collateral. So they have like a 500% collateral to loan ratio. And what surprised me was Peep is a meme coin for those who don't know. It's a meme coin on a frog, and so it's a competitor to Doge. But the key thing I observed is the interest rate was 5%. A shit coin, which is basically being lent out, is being taken as collateral, and the interest rate is 5%. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you. How is Teller's protocol structured, and how can someone become LP or a borrower?
So think of Teller as a order book, or you can say like anything that's closer to TradFi lending. So in TradFi lending, what happens today? Like any financial institution, there are two ways. One is there's a pre-approval for a loan. You get this to your emails all the time. You are pre-approved for a credit limit of $10,000 or $15,000 or whatever. So there's a pre-approval that is happening by the bank or by the financial institution, and then now it's on you whether to accept or reject that loan. It's the same thing on us. So that's the first order book. There's an LP who's basically saying, I'm willing to lend $100,000 in USDC for anybody who meets these 4 conditions. Condition 1, a ratio, is like whoever is submitting a Wrapmatic as a collateral, I will give them 75 cents. Or whoever that is giving Roofstock NFT as collateral, I'll give them $100,000 at APY of 7% for 2 years. And whoever is willing to take this loan offer, they will become the borrower. So Adam now, he has the NFT with him. He could probably come to the Teller app and say, okay, this is my NFT. What do you have for me? And he is pre-approved for like $100,000 loan, as is. And it happens in like 30 seconds. So that is basically how it is structured. So first one is the order book from the lender side, and the other one, now again coming back to TradFi, you don't like the offer that was made by the financial institution, and then you say, okay, I want a better loan terms. So I want to apply for a loan, and you do all the underwriting. So you do that for like you put in all your credentials, you basically say what is that the loan terms are going to be, and then you wait for the approval. That is the other order book. So the borrower initiates the loan term on Teller, and then it's technically a 30-second process. All of it is pretty much automated, and the lender will then look at is like, okay, this user have their KYC'd, what is their credit score, what is their Web3 credit score. None of it has to be done from you. It'll all be done at the back end automatically, again with your consent, of course. And then this will take probably like 5 minutes, and you have the what do you call your loan request approved based on the terms that you requested for. So this is basically the broad 2 structures. One is the pre-approval system, and the other is like the borrower initiating the loan request.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to round out this panel with the last question. Why is now a good time?
I think we should start with that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I can tell you again from the real estate perspective that even if you're seeing in the press that because of higher interest rates, real estate is dropping in value, it's not in some markets, most markets I'd argue. In my markets of South Carolina and Georgia, because the demographic shift, people are moving down there, and there is a record low inventory. A healthy market is 6 months of inventory. Right now, there's only about 3 weeks. People are still falling over themselves to buy houses from us. We are still getting purchase offers above our asking price in some markets. Now, relating this to Teller and to Roofstock, I'm going to give you guys just the straight numbers for our transaction, and you'll see why it still makes sense. The house that was for sale was onChain in Columbia, South Carolina. It was $175,000, which is basically an entry-level home in around Columbia, South Carolina. Teller financed about 65%, $115,000 of the 175. We only had to put up $60,000. That is now being rented out at $1,750 per month, and our interest only to Teller, comes out to be something like below $500 a month. So essentially, we're making roughly $1,300 cash on cash every month off of a $60,000 investment. Now, I don't want to take my calculator, but that is one hell of a good yield on a monthly basis. And then, of course, we're going to enjoy the capital gains as values traditionally go up over the years. So that's why it makes sense for us.
Yeah, and I think to echo your point, Adam, like when prices started falling and it was in the news and all that, and I think at the peak towards the end of last year with inflation hitting 9% and all that, we did see some softening in several markets, most notably the really high growth markets like Austin, Phoenix, Vegas. You did see some correction happening there. Markets like Atlanta are interesting because traditionally they've been balanced markets. They have had good rental yield and good growth as well. I think there's like 50 plus Fortune 500 companies in the neighborhood. So there's, as you said, there's constant influx of people coming in. And maybe around December, we might have seen properties lingering for a little longer. Maybe bid-ask spreads were 10 to 15%. But we track these markets on a regular basis. And most recently, when we looked at Atlanta, still about 40% of deals, people are looking at a price reduction. But on average, the price reduction at which homes are selling is roughly 2%.
Yeah.
So, the other 45-50% of the homes are either selling at list price or slightly above list price. The 45 that